All right, it's Earth Week on Sun Radio. I am Kevin Connor, and we decided to take a little road trip up to Taylor, Texas for this one with the Texas Beer Company. And the founder and CEO, Ian Davis, brewer, Max Elliott, and Ken Flippen, brand ambassador, and some other stuff we're going to talk about in just a second. But nice place you got here, Ian.
Thank you all for coming out. We're really excited to partner with Sun Radio.
Well, my first question, I've been wanting to ask this ever since I first saw your can. How come nobody else ever thought of it? Texas Beer Company. It's perfect.
It is perfect. Yeah, you would think that someone else would have trademarked this by now. And I'll never forget the day, we were homebrewing back at my buddy's house in East Austin, and we were trying to come up with all of our possible brewery names. And for a while, we were the Moon Tower Brewing Company, then the East End Brewing Company. And then it just kind of hit us. Well, why not try and be the Texas Beer Company? So we sent off the application to Texas Secretary of State in March of 2013. We got that letter and says, you are approved as the Texas Beer Company.
And all these other beers have these wacky names, they're trying to be memorable in some way. And sometimes simple is the best.
Simple is the best. And, I'm a fifth generation Texan, and there's no one more proud of Texas than Texans. And it's whether you're from West Texas or East Texas, North Texas, South Texas, Central Texas, we all share that common bond that this is the greatest state and the greatest country in the world.
There you go. And you grew up in Austin.
Yes, sir. Grew up in Austin. Just moved the family out here for the brewery, and now we're proud Taylor Ducks.
All right. And there are solar panels on the roof of the brewery here.
Yes, sir. We have a 20,000 watt solar array right here on the rooftop, and it is the reason we picked this particular building. As a former Sierra Club member and an organizer, that was something that was really important to us, is to not only utilize solar energy to save on our utility bill, but also to try to lead by example and show that businesses can incorporate renewable energy into their utility and energy portfolio.
So you've been seeing Taylor kind of grow quite quickly in the few years you've been up here, right?
We have. When we first started coming out back in 2013 and 2014, the building downtown where our tap room is, it's a historic building right there on Main Street. The lady who had just bought it, they were starting to renovate it. Multi-million-dollar project, took several years. So we would come out here once a month, bring our home brew, and just do samplings and see if the community was excited about having a brewery here in Taylor. And watching that transformative process of revitalizing that building and then us opening the doors in 2016 has really helped be a catalyst for downtown revitalization. And if you look at all those beautiful buildings in downtown Taylor, they just have so much character, so much history, and we're just honored and humbled to be a part of that revitalization process.
But there is still a lot of opportunity in downtown. You could not be more downtown Taylor than your tap room is.
We are in the heartbeat of downtown Taylor, and yes, there are a few buildings that are still in the works on getting revitalized, and we encourage other folks to come join us. It's really exciting to be a part of this community effort.
Well, I want to talk to you more about the company as a whole and everything, but I want to talk about beer with Max over here. Max is the brewer here and kind of gave us a little quick tour of the process, but there seems to be kind of environmental and sustainability considerations in every step of the process of making your beer.
Well, sure, yeah. We give the spent grain that comes from the mash at the end of the day to farmers so that they can take that and feed it to their cows and pigs, or whatever livestock want to eat it, chickens, or whatever. We always give 100% of that away to farmers. Most breweries do that, but that stuff never goes to a landfill. We try to recycle the water, and we do with the brewing process at the end of the day the best we can. And just recycle the best we can. We use aluminum cans as opposed to glass. And we just do the best we can in that process, and reharvesting yeast. We don't send any of that stuff down the drain if we can help it.
Yeah, you said there's like 30 batches. You can use the same yeast.
As long as that yeast, is kept alive and we're feeding it, and we'll reuse that yeast. Our lab tech here looks at it under the microscope, and if it's still viable, then we'll reuse it as many times as we can. Yeast is expensive.
I guess you could say it's the yeast you can do.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I like that. Yeah.
I'm fascinated by the beer making process and all the different flavors of Texas Beer Company beer here.
Sure.
Who invents these different recipes?
Well, me and the other owner, JD, we came up with about 6 core recipes to start out with, and then branched off there with a couple other iterations, stemming from the porters and the stouts and stuff, doing some specialty stuff with that, throwing some peanut butter in there, and using a local chocolatier in town and throwing some of his chocolate in there. Today, as a matter of fact, we just canned our first double IPA.
Yes.
The double duck you see there. Yep. Everyone's enjoying that one this afternoon. We were pretty heavy-handed on the hops with that one, and the ABV on that one. But really juicy, really citrusy beer. A lot of the Citra hop, Mosaic hop was dry hopped in that beer, and had a lot of fun with that one.
And Ian, you said we were some of the first people to taste this?
We literally just canned this about an hour ago, and you guys are the first ones to try it.
We are honored. We are very honored.
I just hope there's some left for the consumer.
We drink all we can and we sell the rest. Ken Flippin, I was introduced to you as a brand ambassador for the Texas Beer Company, but also other things. You work at the Capitol a lot. What's going on?
Right. Well, I've worked with Ian and JD long before they started this brewing business, and they were both environmental activists before, and I've continued to do that at the same time that I'm an investor and like an ambassador for them, because it's basically reaching out to those same communities they've been connected to for a long time, talking about how you can take business ownership and really be responsible about the environment. And so I work for the U.S. Green Building Council as basically their advocacy consultant at the legislature. So we try to get good things done that improve our environment and, protect public health as well, especially when it comes to our built environment. And so to a certain extent, I've been trying to help them, and not only what they're doing as far as clean energy, but also how you promote that and market yourself and brand yourself on that. Because the truth is that people want to know that the owners are responsible not only to making a profit and providing a good quality product, but also the larger implications of what it means to have a business in a world where we know that we have pollution problems, we obviously have climate change that we have to consider, and we have energy issues. The amount of energy that goes into every aspect of brewing and getting the beer out and so forth is something these guys take seriously. And other brew companies are really looking at that and learning from that, and they all learn from one another. So just promoting that out there so that they can kind of create their own brand is what I'm trying to help them do.
And you were telling us before we started that there's a new program that has some tax advantages for people that do want to have a sustainable business.
Sure. So there's a thing called PACE, Property Assessed Clean Energy, and it's basically for commercial entities, but nonprofits, small multifamilies, churches, a lot of different business-oriented businesses can use it. And what it does is it basically gives you a chance to do, whether it's energy efficiency, water efficiency, or putting distributed energy, what we'd consider renewable, onto your place. And it only has to be 80% of the cost is in that, and you can cover other things with that. And so a business can basically redo their building to make it very sustainable, energy efficient. The way the program's set up, you're going to make more money off the energy savings than it would cost you, but then you pay it on your taxes. And so it spreads it out more and basically gives you more cash flow up front, which businesses really need. So you're doing something environmental at the same time that you're making your business more viable in a cash flow manner. So PACE is something that especially businesses that are thinking about coming down to a place like Taylor and taking one of those buildings and doing it, PACE would be a great project to use for that kind of building remodel.
Very cool. And you live in downtown Taylor.
I do. I live right across from the brew pub, so it makes it very convenient. I don't have to use any carbon to get home, and I can travel safely by foot.
Yeah.
And that's part of being responsible too, is like recognizing that it means something when you're selling alcohol, and you want to think about being responsible. And they're also really good about that, both at the brew pub and in their branding.
Ian, let me ask you, was it affordability that brought you out here to Taylor to do the beer company?
It's a great question. And actually, going back to your question earlier about how did we get the name Texas Beer Company?
Yeah.
When we originally were homebrewing in Austin, we thought we'd be another Austin microbrewery.
Right.
But when we got approved for Texas Beer Company, we thought maybe we should really transcend the traditional urban markets and find a small town that really spoke to the Texas identity, kind of like Shiner.
Yeah.
And so we surveyed a lot of towns across Central Texas, and we fell in love with Taylor. Sure. And in particular, that building downtown, that historic, beautiful building where our taproom is. And this
was your first brewery, right?
Yeah, that was where we built our Kickstarter-funded pilot brew house.
Yeah.
And Max and JD tested over 200 different recipes, and then we found the ones that our customers liked the most, and then we got this particular warehouse that has the 20,000 rooftop solar arrays so that we could scale up and start distributing across the state.
Boy, the independent breweries in Texas have mushroomed in the past, 20 years or so? And I see people at the grocery store just staring at this wall of craft beer, and they just seem a little lost sometimes. There's a whole lot of them out there. What helps you to cut through?
It's there's certainly a lot of brew pubs growing, and we think it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
That's one of the great things about the craft beer industry is as everybody supports each other.
Yeah.
As we were home brewers trying to learn the ropes, we had a lot of breweries help us out, and now it's really gratifying to hear other startups reach out to us and ask for advice. And for us in particular, we're trying to really stand out because we are the Texas Beer Company. And we want to make sure that there is a common unifying identity, that whether you live in the big city or you live out in the farms, we share that common Texas bond. And then we have our core flagships, as Max mentioned, but now we're really having some fun experimenting with some of these limited releases for folks who really like to dive off the deep end.
And having grown up in Austin and gone to Austin High, right? And you probably know a lot of people that you grew up with that would still like to live in the neighborhood you grew up in. And it's become almost impossible.
Me and my buddies, we talk about this all the time. We grew up in Central Austin, and we can't afford to live where our folks raised us.
Yeah.
And so I keep telling them that the water is warm out here in Taylor. It's a real nice town, great place to raise a family. And, there's something really charming and engaging about living in a town where everybody knows your name and everybody looks out for each other. And I think, a lot of wonderful towns in the Central Texas area, but I'm a little biased. I think Taylor's the best.
Well, come out and visit out here in Taylor. And you're not doing tours right now because of COVID, right?
Well, we did temporarily suspend those, but we're about to bring those back on. Those will be Saturdays, Saturday afternoon. So stay tuned on our Facebook page for that. And we would love to give everybody a tour of our solar powered brewery. And, I just remember dating back to my original Sierra Club activist days, 10, 15 years ago. We got started on the environmental movement because it was the right thing to do. It was the moral thing to do, the spiritual thing to do to make the world a better place for our kids. But now businesses like us are doing it for financial reasons as well. Clean energy is now cost competitive with dirty energy.
Right.
And so we just want to be a part of that movement that helps usher America and the rest of the world into a clean energy economy.
I wasn't part of Sun Radio when it started, but the reason it started with solar power is the affordability factor. Of using solar power to run the studio and the transmitters, and I keep hearing this over and over from business people who are, like you said, engaging. First of all, because it's the right thing to do, but it's also oftentimes the most economically viable thing to do.
And that's what we're trying to educate folks on.
Yeah.
There's a lot of information out there that, thanks to folks like Ken who are working at the U.S. Green Building Council, that we're trying to share. And that's one of the things that we hope to do with our consumer product, is use that as an entree to educate folks and get people talking about how we can all make the world a better place just by purchasing green energy products.
What should we watch out for on a label on a can of beer?
So one thing that we encourage everybody to do, because you were mentioning that there are a lot of local craft breweries out there, there is a sign from the National Brewers Guild that says, it's an upside down bottle, it says independent. So if you're trying to support local,
right,
not only to support your local economy, but also good for sustainable environmental policies, look for that label.
Okay.
Because that's an important thing that helps distinguish us from the big foreign-owned breweries that frankly aren't giving back to their local communities. So support your local brew pub, support the environment, support good beer.
And what should you watch out for to avoid? What should you avoid that's on the label when you read that? Go, uh-oh.
I don't want to disparage any other breweries out there, but just make sure you support local.
Okay.
That's the key thing. And in terms of looking out for our next big release, if I could ask Max to talk about our new barrel-aged stout that's coming out next month.
Yeah, we'll be getting ready to can that early next week. We barrel-aged some stout and barrels. It took a long winter's nap for about a year, and our Grackle stout, and it's a heavy hitter too, coming in at about 12%. So it's going to be a nice treat coming down the line next week.
Yeah, I didn't mean to disparage any other breweries either. I meant like ingredients wise. When you look at a can of beer and you see like syrup or.
That's a very good point. So we are a traditional brewery, malt, malted barley, water, hops, yeast, but we don't want any of that corn syrup in our beer.
Corn syrup.
Yeah, that's absolutely.
So if you get that, keep looking. Look for this stuff. I mean, it couldn't be simpler. The Texas Beer Company.
God bless Texas.
Boy, when you realized you could have that, what a feeling that must have been.
Well, and there's nothing more fun than traveling the state and just, doing a tailgate out in College Station or Waco at one of their football games, or going down to Port Aransas, and you may not have met someone before, but you share them some Texas beer and you're immediately best friends.
Yeah.
And that's really what we're trying to do, is make good beer, make folks happy, and pay tribute to the great state of Texas.
And the Double Duck is not available in the stores yet.
Not yet. Stay tuned. It'll be hitting the shelves in about mid-May, in the bars early May, and our taproom release party will be Saturday, April 24th, and we'll be celebrating Earth Day as a part of that effort.
Excellent. Well, it's Earth Week. We appreciate you being part of it. We appreciate your support of Sun Radio. Come up to Taylor sometime and visit the Texas Beer Company.